the video today, I'm going to cover how to make a tow bar that you can use to tow your MG, your classic MG. We've all had problems with our MGs where they left us in a lurch on the road or in a parking lot somewhere, and you end up, paying for it to be towed back, and then when you get it back to the garage, it's just a loose fitting or something, and it's a big pain in the butt to have to move your car around. You run into that with classic cars. The battery will die, or the alternator turned out bad, or the old starter that's 40 years old decides to give up the ghost. But anyway, it's uncomfortable when you have to tow your car after working on it so hard, and it's expensive. So how can you tow your own car? Well, let me give you some insight into how I've done it in the past. So this is my 1979 Super Beetle, and when we lived in California, we decided, let's tow this thing, and instead of renting another car or a truck to tow this car, we bought this tow bar. It's really very cost effective. I'll put a link in the description, but you can see it just bolts in to the subframe up under here, and it has a couple of pins that you can put in there. And we towed this all across the country for over 1,400 miles, so it didn't give us any problems whatsoever. I'll go over some safety points and things that you need to do in order to tow your MG for a long distance. But in this case, all we're looking for is a recovery. We need to pull the car back to the garage so we can work on it. So the point here is, can I use this existing tow bar on the MG? And the answer is, why, yes. Turns out that the MG has some support structure underneath the frame that is exactly the same measurement. If you look, I've got a ruler here, and if you put it from here to there, you got 23 inches on center from point to point on this. So if they're under the MG, let me show you in there. All right, so under the MG, you see that it's got these straps here. Now these are really tie-down straps is really all there are. They're not really toe straps, but they are connected directly to the frame, and they're very beefy. So the problem is, I guess, A, are they long enough? Far enough apart? And the answer is, why, yes, of course they are. I've already measured them. Let me see. So from that one down there to this one right here, look at that, 25 inches on center. So it's not going to be difficult to implement an implementation of this this existing tow bar. But the thing is that you got the valence in here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a bar that will come down from here. We'll fix it onto here, and that bar will come down to about here, where we can connect to that tow bar. And as long as we have the same clearance as we have on the Bug, then we should be able to tow it with the same amount of effort, even probably less, because it's a lighter car. And in case you're wondering, yes, the alignment on the MG does allow it to be towed from the front, so you can do a flat tow on the MG. You don't have to put it on a dolly or anything. You can actually do a flat tow, but you just need to get to where you can mount that. So we're gonna build a little metal component that's gonna come down from here. We'll use some nice thick stock. We'll bolt it into this, and then it'll be an attachment that we can use to tow this car should we ever need to recover it. All right, let's get started. All right, so one of the things we want to be able to make sure that we can get is a vertical clearance. When you're going up and down hills, the tow bar will go a little higher than the bumper sometimes. And so we just need to make sure we get the right amount of clearance. So we're going to use the center point right here and measure. Looks like we need 22 inches to to the center of that circle to assure that we have the same clearance that we had with the Volkswagen. We didn't have any problems with that, so I think that's what we use as a standard. So as long as we can get this to the point where the valance doesn't get hit when we go up to 22-inch clearance, then we should be good to go. All right, so when I was first thinking about doing this, the first thing that I measured was the thickness of that bar right there. So it's 1/4 inch, or maybe just a little bit more. And here's some 1/4 inch stock. So what I went to the store and I bought 36 inches of 1/4 by 1.5 inch stock. This is what I intend on making the little tangs with. But with anything in metalworking, you don't want to start using what you got. You want to do a prototype. So I'm prototyping, in this case, with plywood. So that's what we're looking at. There's a 9-inch piece of plywood. I can get 4 pieces of this out of that piece of 36-inch stock. And here you can see mocked up, there's no intrusion. It doesn't hit the valance at all. And I have the required deflection, so I don't have to worry about it not fitting. So this is the core component, is 2 of these sandwiched together. We'll probably obviously have to put some spacers in there, because otherwise they'll wobble around and whatnot, but we'll make that happen. And on the top piece, we need to figure a way to mount that onto that existing toe strap, so that it becomes firm and we'll be able to take force going that direction. We don't want it to become something that will hit the valance. We want this to be rigid, as rigid as the frame if possible. And so that's the next trick here. So we have our basic shape. Now we just have to work on the mountings and the angle. I think we've pretty much got the angle here. It doesn't look too terrible. I don't know if this is something that I'll keep in place 100% of the time, but it'll be some components that I can bring with me should I need to tow it, that I can bolt into this this existing frame up here. But that's the plan, is to make 9-inch sections that we can then hook the tow bar into. And I think that looks half professional. I mean, doesn't look like a schlock job. I think it'll tow the car pretty well, and it'll have good control. So let's go ahead and get started and do some metalworking. First thing to do is to take our little mock-up templates here and draw some lines where all the metal pieces will meet, and then mock up this onto a piece of the hard metal here. And this is going to be harder to cut because it's a whole 1/4 inch thick, so that's going to take some serious cutting. And then we'll weld them up and make it so we can bolt them in place. You see, I've got some nice grade 8 bolts that I've already got with the plan, so we can have this all worked out. All right, moving forward. All right, so here you can see I've traced out the pattern of this little hole right here on the back. The idea being that when we set these in, I'm going to make like a little biscuit that I'll weld into each one of these, and then there'll be a spacer right here that will match up with this line, which coincides with this. So basically, you can see from in there, this is the back side, but it'll fill up that hole, and that hole will be what keeps it from turning, because that biscuit will fit right in that little slot. So this piece of this flange right here is a 1/4 inch thick. These little legs that I'm building down here, these are a 1/4 inch thick. And so each of these biscuits that I weld onto here will be 1/8 of an inch thick. And so they'll squeeze together with a bolt right through the hole, and that will keep that rigid. And then we'll put another bolt right here to secure this front edge. That'll keep it from pulling, and it'll keep it from pushing. It'll keep it from torquing back and forth. So overall, those 2 bolts squishing with that biscuit in the middle will be a really secure connection. So I gotta start cutting these biscuits and spacers and the 1/8 inch material, and then we can cut these 9-inch pieces. All right, so metalworking has started in earnest. This is one of the biscuits. Let's see if it fits in there just fine. I gotta make 4 of those. We're gonna weld one of these onto each of the legs, and then they will sandwich together, and then there'll be a hole drilled through right about here. Maybe we'll put it on this side over here, up on this corner. But we don't want to cut into this metal. We just want to cut into the new metal. But I just got to make 4 more of these and verify that they fit properly into the little slot here. And then we can get into welding. Once we get it all welded, then we'll start drilling the holes, because welding makes things warp a little bit sometimes, and you always need to make adjustments for the holes. So anyway, 3 more of these to go, and then I also have to make the little curved shim that goes in right here. I've cut the raw pieces for those. There's just a little bit of a curve though. That shouldn't be that hard to make those. So anyway, moving on. All right, making progress. You can see I've got this is how they'll be oriented. I have one of these kind of slightly arced pieces, and then the little wafers set up on the template. This is the wooden template that I had laid out, and see, run the lines where it's going to go. Now, these are just kind of rough, but these wafers I've tested in the squares, in the actual tie-down strap, so they're going to fit just perfect. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole, 1/2 inch hole here and a 1/2 inch hole here, and 2 bolts will secure these into place. They'll clamp together, 2 of them together, and that will make this this bar an extension of that toe strap. So making progress. I got 3 more of these little angle dealies to do, and then we'll get into some welding. All right, so there you go. I have all the little wafers all ready to be welded into place. You see, this is where the template had it laid out, and this is where I intend to have this laid out. Now, the thing that I have to think about at this point is, how am I going to secure these, right? So this is a piece that goes into a hole that has no tolerances. So I can't run a bead of weld. I have to actually chamfer the inside and run a bead underneath it. So that's going to be tricky. I'm going to have to put a little chamfer on the bottom piece, on the bottom of this piece, and run a weld in the edges along the, and I think I'm just going to weld the ends, because there will be a drill drilled through here anyway. I don't want to have to drill through a weld. I might tighten them up after I've drilled the hole, but there will be a hole through the middle of it right here. And then likewise on this one. Now this one is a lot easier because you can see I've made them stick out a little beyond, and I can run a bead of weld along the outside edge on that. So it'll be in there, and I can run a bead of weld right alongside here. So I get 3 of these sides welded with no problems. The whole thing is going to be getting it to fit. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this wafer in. I'm going to measure where it goes, and then I'm going to put this wafer in, just a tack here and there, and then I'm going to take it to the car, and then I'll put each of these with their little shim piece so that it grabs the bottom, and then I'll clamp it in place and then take it and weld it after the fact. So it's going to be a process, but we'll keep you up on it, and check in after we get 1 or 2 of these made, and I'll show you what it looks like underneath the car. So after a dry fit, I decided that I would work from symmetry. So I drew a center line, and then I etched the target location for this little biscuit. Now you can see I've got the biscuit here kind of chamfered, this shiny bit here. That would be where the weld goes. I don't know if you can see that against. So that will go down, and then the weld will fill that hole just on the ends. So it'll be square in the middle. Square in the middle right here. Like that. I'm going to tack that in on the ends, and then I'm going to put it back up under the car, and we'll remeasure where the arc goes. It looks like, you know, we have a subtle arc in the template, but when I etched it, it looks like that arc is a little bit more severe right here when I put that in the center. So we may have to go and shape these again, but it's a good thing. You know, we've got to make adjustments. And the whole thing is, it's a lot easier for me to work with these so that they're not so odd. I can just rip out all 4 of these with the biscuit, and it'll all be on the center with the same measurements, and that'll get us good alignment. Now, one of the things about alignment is you don't want to be pulling the car to the right constantly, because then you wear your tires out. You want it to be centered. So I want to have these as close to equal as I can. You know, there's obviously going to be a little bit of flux, but I don't want it to be too far off. So working from center gives us the ability to get those measurements all just perfect. Well, that didn't turn out quite perfect. My weld got a little hot right here. I burned off the end. And on the second side over here, I did okay in the beginning, but then finished a little rough. So I think I'll turn down the amperage just a little bit more. And on the second one, we'll see if we can do better than this one. I'm going to go ahead and lay this one in and see how close we are to fit. And then I'll work on filling these little spots in, filing them down. So here you can see that first one sitting in place. Just kind of loosely in there. But it holds its own, fits right in that little wafer. You can see the voids. I'm gonna refill those so they're nice and tight. Keeps it snug. But you can see, since I moved that to the center to keep it symmetrical, this little section right down here seems to have a bit more of a flare to it than what I had originally designed. See, that has to come in a little more. So I'm going to have to adjust these so that they have more surface area and more of a curve. So we'll capture that curve, and then I'll regrind these into the right shape. But that's coming along pretty good. It's looking like it's going to do its thing. Just a bit more welding, some grinding to do, a lot of adjustments, but we'll get it done. Alright, so there you go. I got one of them fabricated. It's in place. It's nice and snug too. Combination of this wafer and this little wedge in here makes it it doesn't hardly move at all. So once we drill a hole in the middle here and drill a hole in this section right here, make another one of these and squash the two together, it's going to be nice and firm. Then we'll measure out where to put the hole for the bottom. And I think I'll take these sharp edges, the corners off, just to make it so that it doesn't snag or hit anything. And I think we got a good solution. So 3 more to make. They're not easy, but I think this first one was a really good roadmap for me to learn some lessons for the other ones, and we'll get them all done. And I'll check back in once we start drilling the holes. Well, there you go. There's a match set. I learned a little bit on the second one, got a little bit better with the welds. Turned down the temperature and ran the duration a little longer. Got some cleaner welds. Took a lot less cleanup than I did on this one. I had to do a lot of filing and whatnot. But it looks like these are going to match up. I've already clamped them into the car. They look really good. The real trick with this is to get the second one, when you get it in there, to line up in this direction as well. You have to get all the angles just right in order to get them to line up. So it's certainly some advanced welding project here, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. Let's see how I get the other two and how they come out. Alright, so there you go. This is one side bolted in. Got the holes all lined up. Got a couple of grade 8 half-inch bolts in there. This thing is very, very sturdy. It's not going anywhere. Overall, I'm very happy with the fit and the form. How it lines up in there. And when you do a little bit of welding, sometimes metal will get deformed. And that's what we have here. This is no longer a 1/4 of an inch gap, but we can. I'll tweak that back, and we'll get this 1/4 inch gap back in here, and then I'm going to cut these little corners off so they don't become a sharp thing right there. And so then we'll get on to the other side. Once we have them both together, I'll line up for this bottom hole so we can accept that drift pin, and we'll be able to tow the car. Excellent. All right, so there you go. Here's the finished pair together with the screw hole, with the holes drilled through it. It was quite an exercise to get these holes to line up perfectly and still have the pattern of these lined up underneath. What I ended up doing was clamping it into the car and transposing a hole on this side, clamping them together, and then drilling that hole, and then using a bolt and then smashing them together, and then drilling the second hole with them smashed together through the first hole. So at first I was like, oh, I hope this works. I was really nervous. But then when I got it up on the car and everything seemed to match, it was really good. So learned a lot of lessons on this one, and we'll take it to school on the next pair that we make, so that we can start towing the car. There you can see the grade 8 bolts that we're putting together on here. These are very hefty, and they will be able to handle the impact of the car. And we really want to squash these two together really strong so that they become like one piece of metal. Anyway, I had it up underneath there, and it was really rigid. I mean, you could certainly feel confident towing the car around, even if it's just for a recovery. But I think this is going to work out just great. I got a minor setback on this side. On the driver's side, this tang is not straight. It's bent. I was trying to fit one of these into place right up in here, and I couldn't get it to sit flat. And it turns out that the reason why was not my work, but there's a bend in this right here. Let me see if I can capture it on the camera. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a bit of a bend in that. I need to take that bend out because that's going to change the trajectory of that little arm, and it won't be able to match up. So if you can see the bend in there. Anyway, so I'm going to put a wrench on here and then put my floor jack on and just pull that wrench with the floor jack until it comes true. So you know, it's a barn find, and cars that don't run get pulled around a lot, and I think maybe a strap or a chain or something was used to move this thing sideways instead of forwards and backwards, and it bent. So all right, let's straighten it out and then we'll move on. So there you go. Put a little pipe wrench on there and get it to bite, and so that it will bend in the right direction, and apply some force as needed to get it to move. I'm going to get up underneath there and measure that and see if I need to go a little further. It looks like it needs to go a little bit further, but trying not to do any harm. All right, so that seems to take the bend out of it. There's still a little bit of a little bow right here in this little section, but the area where I'm connected, this looks pretty straight now. It comes pretty close to down straight. The important thing is that this surface right here is flat now, so the little attachments that I'm building can sit flat in there, and it won't be deformed. I'm going to have to take a measurement. I'm going to clamp this in place, take a measurement between the two ends, and make sure I still have 23 inches. But I think we can move forward from here. All right, so quick mock-up. I just want to check to make sure that we bent that enough, and it looks like it's, you know, it's a 9-inch long arm, and if you're just off 1 degree, it's going to transmit over that 9 inches. So it's off a little. You can see this one here is in its little slot, and this one's off by a little more than quarter. Actually, it's about a half an inch off. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with it with this angle, and then I will adjust the these pieces on this end and just give them a little bit of a bend so that they'll match up. I don't think I'm going to get that frame any tighter than it is, but you know, it's an old car and it's been through a lot, so you have to make these little adjustments. You can't expect everything to be pristine. So anyway, it does bolt together, so you know, we can always just bolt it in a certain sequence so that it all matches. So anyway, I don't think this is a deal breaker. I'm going to move forward with it and go ahead and do the bottom shims on this and get it moving, and then we'll be able to proceed. All right. All right, so there you go, finished project. This is the driver's side. You can see this one has a little zigzag in it. I had to make up, oops, still a little sticky. I had to make up a little bit of space here because that frame was bent. And you can see I just did a little zigzag and I matched it on the other side. This is where the pin goes through. The tow bar will go in between this space right here. And here's a good view of the other ones here. You can see that little loop goes right in here with the square piece fitting right in there. And then when you bolt them both together, they become like they're just one piece of metal. These are going to be connected with these half-inch grade 8 bolts. Half inch is the diameter. They're actually, you tighten them with a 3/4 inch wrench, and you can get a lot of torque on that. I plan on putting lock washers on those as well when we actually do some towing. So let's go ahead and get this on the car so you can see what it looks like. I don't really have time in this video to go over towing, but I'll show you what the tow bar looks like when it's installed. All right, so there you go. Tow bar installed. It has a little pin and then a clip that holds it in place. Same thing on this side. And you can see I got plenty of clearance, so going up and down a hill won't be a problem. And it's pretty snug. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I'm really glad I got this. You know, the advantage to having a tow bar like this as opposed to getting like a tow dolly where you have the extra wheels and whatnot is this is real easy to store. You just lean it up against the garage wall, and you take those extra little devices that we've manufactured. You can take them off. You wouldn't even know they're around, and so it's you could probably even put it in the trunk if you knew that you needed to bring it with you. But you know, classic cars, they can be a labor of love, and sometimes it's tough love, and you have to tow your car back after you took it out for a drive and something failed. But hey, this is a good solution, and I hope maybe it helps out. If you have any questions at all, throw some comments in. If you're interested in seeing me tow with this, you know, mention it in the comments. I'll see if I do a follow-up video later on. But that's all I got for you this week. Be sure to subscribe if you like the content. Take it easy.